Hello, well, welcome to our session today. And we're here with George Theodosiou of GFS Solutions. And George is a consultant to the construction industry. And today we're going to be talking about the practicalities of starting up in construction on your own, whether that's as a freelancer or whether that's with big visions to grow a business. So before we get started, George, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to be doing this?
Yep. Thank you very much for the opportunity. It's great to be here. Nice to officially meet you in person over Zoom. So very simply, I show trades how to structure, predict profits, and strengthen their cash flow so they can build from there. In terms of how I got to where I am today, quite unorthodox. It wasn't planned. I didn't actually plan to be where I am today. I fell into the insolvency industry. So for those that don't know about the insolvency industry, it's where you help individuals and companies either avoid or come through bankruptcy or liquidation.
Okay.
And, I had various examples of how money problems for people personally and in their business was affecting them in their lives. So unfortunately, I experienced a lot of our clients that were falling into depression, were arguing with their other halves. In some cases, it was leading to divorce. And unfortunately, the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak, was experiencing someone commit suicide because of money problems in their business.
Yeah.
So I dedicated myself and my career to the industry, and just became super sensitive to people making any types of comments like that, let alone gestures. And then it just evolved into a place where I actually got fed up, not being able to help as much as I wanted, because people would only come to me at the 11th hour when there was a serious debt problem, i.e. got to be at court tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. or there's a bailiff outside and things like that, like right, to the extreme. And I felt that I could help businesses avoid these problems altogether, but I didn't have any proof yet because I was working in this space over here. So I just started a process of repositioning myself and just pumping out loads of content on YouTube and Facebook, just giving business tips and advice on how to avoid problems as a base, as a foundation to then build and grow a business that was making more money, was more profitable, had better cash flow, and therefore by default, if you reach those things, then by default you're further away from debt problems. So that's been my journey from January 2006 to present day.
Okay. So a lot of our viewers today, a number of them will have been in the construction industry, which is why we're talking to you. And yeah, they're unfortunately being made redundant. And some of those may be looking at starting out on their own, just as a sole trader. And some of those may be looking at this is the time to start their own business. So as far as I see it, those are the two paths open to them. Would you agree?
Yeah, so as you said, freelance, which in the trades and construction industry is effectively being a subcontractor to another company, or whether you start your own business and then that could be under the guise of a sole tradership or a limited company. So in terms of what would be best, if that's the question, I'll give you an answer, but without skirting around the answer. It really depends on what people want. If you're looking for something very short-term, extreme short-term, then being a subcontractor is the obvious answer because it's a lot easier to set up, a lot less costs to run. But bearing in mind that you have to be responsible for your own invoicing and your own tax and that sort of thing. But ultimately, you don't have the other challenges, let's say, of running a business, which is like marketing to get business and then the sales process. You're effectively working for someone, i.e. a building contractor, for example, that has already done all that work for you. So it really depends on what you want. Like I said, if it's extreme short term, like a freelancer subcontractor is the easiest way to go. And ultimately, you need to look at your contacts that you have in the industry. If you have people around you that are ready, willing, and able, based on your relationship, to give you work, then you can cut out that marketing chunk of the process. But like I said, it depends on what you want to achieve. And I think we're obviously I always try and remain as absolutely as possible as I possibly can. And although this has been an incredibly crazy time, for want of a better way of putting it, for all of us
Yeah.
on various levels, every single person on the planet has been affected by what's been going on with the virus and lockdowns, etc. That, and this is true of not just what's going on now, but having worked in the insolvency industry from 2006 and being involved in the industry when we had a recession, and with the recession being on the tip of people's tongues for the last few years since Brexit was mentioned 3 years ago, etc., you're always going to have a situation in these types of economies, even in a great economy, there's no 100% job security. So what I'd say to anyone who's in a position right now watching this that either has been made redundant or it's on the cards for them is, as horrible as it might feel, don't worry, it's perfectly normal. This stuff has happened to hundreds of millions of people around the world all year round, regardless of the economy. And the point I want to stress is that regardless of how strong or weak the economy is, you're in a much better position if you're in control of your own destiny. You could be the best employee, the absolute best member of staff that a company's ever had in their history, and you could still lose your job because of things that are out of your control.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not saying it's easy, but if you're running your own business from a subcontractor point of view, i.e. freelance, or a sole trader or a limited company, you're in control of your own destiny. I would urge people to take a little bit of comfort in that, but just to understand that you're in the best position possible because you're in control.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So subcontracting is one thing, which obviously means you get your work from somebody else.
Yeah.
But if you are going to go out alone, how would you get started? What's your advice?
Yeah, I would say it's a great question. I love this question, and I actually don't think that it's asked enough by all of us in all industries. When you're starting out, especially for the first couple of years, easily, you just need to focus on two key things. That's getting work in, so local work, depending on the type of tradesman or tradeswoman that you are, getting local work. So it's going to be more profitable, less travel time, fuel, etc. So just focus on getting on more work and then getting money in the bank, cash flow. That's it. You do not have to worry about all the things that we're told that we feel we need to do, i.e. a fancy logo, an all singing, all dancing website, as you've referred to in the past in previous conversations we've had. All of these things are great, but you do not need them in order to make money and start building the kind of life that you want for you and your family and the people around you. I'll give you a great example. I know many people, but just one builder that I know that we actually used. I'm talking about a guy who is in his late 50s, early 60s, been running a, relatively speaking, we'll have our own definitions of success, but a successful building contracting business, no website, runs his business from a Yahoo account email. You cannot get this guy booked in to do your property, whether it's for a full refurb, a small refurb, an loft extension, loft conversion or extension side or rear, for at least 6, maybe even to 9 months. He's that booked up. His work's brilliant, and he doesn't have the things that we've just mentioned in terms of business cards, logos, websites, all of that stuff. The proof is in the quality of the work and connections with people. So I would say focus on two clear things: getting clients in, depending on the type of trade you are, the more local, the better, because it's more profitable, more manageable. And number two, getting paid. Money in the bank, cash flow is the most important thing for anyone definitely starting out, but then that theme should continue indefinitely. If you focus on those things, it's difficult to go wrong.
Yeah. Okay, so getting the clients in.
Yeah, and just on that point, the easy way to go about it is just to break it down to simplicity. I'm not saying that business is easy, but oftentimes we overcomplicate it. So if you just focus on, like I said, getting clients and getting money in the bank, and all you need to do is just understand the problems that you solve or the situations that you improve. The next question you ask yourself is, who do I solve it for? Who is the most typical person that would benefit from my services, that suffer with the problems that I can solve or want to improve their situation, i.e. their, whether it's an extension or whether it's getting some nice garden lights if you're an electrician, or, wherever it is. And then The third question to ask yourself is, when do they typically need you? So you can start mapping out what the 12-month calendar looks like, and when the services are most in demand for what you offer. And then what do these people value? So if you say to yourself, I'm an electrician, for example, and the problems that I solve is obviously safety,
Yeah.
from an electrician's point of view, and aesthetics. So you've got two ends of the spectrum. So you've got, your typical like rewire, fuse boards, and then you've got the aesthetic side of maybe a Ring doorbell or garden lights or security lights, that sort of thing. And then you think, well, typically, who are the people that I can help the most? Many people will require these services when they're either buying or selling a home, or especially now they're looking to extend, or we're coming out of lockdown, so people are going to be hosting their close friends and family, maybe want to host into the night and have nice garden lights. So you start positioning the kinds of people that you want to do business with for the kinds of services that you offer. You look at approximately when they need you the most, and then what do these people value? They value honesty, they value credibility, they value a great customer experience.
Yeah.
So when you go out and doing a quote, just by asking great questions to find out what's important to them, how soon they want the job done, what the top three things, even asking people, as I say to my trades clients, if you don't know what your customers value the most, don't worry about it. Just ask them. So what do you value the most about having a tradesperson in your property? And people will tell you: trust, punctuality, professionalism, politeness, being good at what you do, explaining things, being true to your word in terms of your fixed pricing, no hidden pricing issues. Just be in a position where you can offer that and just be honest and give people advice and say, well, actually, I know you mentioned you wanted this, but you don't really need to spend money on this right now because you've got another 6 to 12 months life of this particular product or whatever.
Yeah. I really appreciate it when people say that to me. Yeah.
Yeah, or yeah, and then just give people an opportunity to see some of your work and have a look at some reviews and testimonials, and just to build trust. That's all it is. It doesn't have to be overcomplicated with fancy logos and websites. Just do the job well. If there are any issues, which inevitably does happen on site, because you can't always know what's behind that wall or under that floorboard or whatever, that you deal with it, in a professional, calm, positive manner, because problems happen in life and business, and it's more about how we deal with it and react, rather than, don't be the kind of tradesperson that blames other people, or is looking for a way to not have to deal with something, or looking
Yeah.
for excuses. Just keep it simple.
So you mentioned pricing there. I think that's a whole topic all of its own. I mean, what's your advice for somebody who's starting out? Should they undercut? Should they be, straight in at market price from the very beginning? What would you
Yeah,
suggest?
I absolutely love this question. One of the 8 core principles that I teach my clients, trades clients, in my training, is about how to ethically increase your prices. So many people actually come to me for this specific reason, because they
Mm,
are literally sick and tired, fed up with two things. One is potential customers trying to bring their prices down, which really makes them feel like rubbish, and affects profit margins, affects cash flow, and affects relationships when they come home at night, and
yeah.
and then the other side of it is where you have other fellow trades, that are undercutting.
Yes.
So I would say, in the first instance, as an entry level answer to the question, is when you're just starting out, especially if you're going to be a subcontractor, and therefore your costs to run your operation are low, relatively speaking, then you are in a position to charge an amount of money that still makes sense to you, and it's profitable, and it will help you moving forward, but it's still in a position which is quite attractive to customers. As your business progresses, I would then urge you at some point, as soon as possible, to make a decision as to what kind of business you want to build, excuse me, and the type of customers that you want. If you're not interested in attracting high-end clients that are paying a certain amount of fees, then by all means charge at a lower rate, and fall into that category. But just understand that you need to do obviously a lot more volume.
Yeah.
I very, very, very rarely hear that. And I've been working with trades businesses, even from the insolvency days from 2006, but in the consultancy capacity since November 2014. So for the last 6 years, it's like maybe a handful of times I've heard people that want to do a lot more volume. Ultimately, people often say to me, how do I attract high-end clients? I work with architects, building contractors, high-end kitchen designers and interior designers. Anyone that works in around the property, I've got clients in that space, and they all want high-end clients because they can effectively have less clients for more money, more profit, better cash flow, better to deal with. So the point with that is that you need to firstly decide where you want to position you and your business in the marketplace. And then secondly, again, coming back to what I mentioned about understanding the problems that you solve or the situations you improve for that particular target market. And who are they? When will they need your services, the most? But ultimately, what do they value? And a lot of the conversations that I've been having for the last few years, but like a lot during lockdown, because lockdown has changed the environment to a certain degree, is be very careful of the language that you use. So I see this a lot with trades business owners, where on the one hand, if somebody asks for a recommendation on a Facebook group, for example, or they're having a conversation with someone who's potentially interested in using them as their tradesman, and the tradesperson thinks that a good way of going about it to win the work is to mention that they're reasonably priced, they work to different budgets, etc. But then the flip side to that is when they come and see me at my office, at my training centre in North London, they're complaining that they cannot attract high-end clients. And the simple answer is understand the people that you're trying to attract and have conversations with and do business with, because anybody that's a high-end client, as a tradesperson will deem them, is going to respond and resonate with words like luxury, bespoke, custom, unique, one of a kind. They're not going to resonate with words like reasonably priced or budget. So understand that the way that we behave, the words we use, where we go out and try to meet people and have conversations with our target clients, be very mindful of the way that we behave and the language that we use, which is much, much, much more important than a fancy logo or a or all singing, all dancing website or business card or whatever. So that's very interesting as well, because just by your language and the way you behave and your relationships, you will attract high-end clients. In that first instance, subject to you then obviously being able to deliver on the high end.
Yes, on your work. Yeah. So you mentioned one of the pitfalls, which is, trying to, as you say, trying to appeal to too many markets at once. Are there any other pitfalls or challenges that you regularly come across?
Yeah, in terms of pitfalls, I made a few notes here. The ones that really stick out is focusing on the wrong things. Like we mentioned about, so if you're first starting out, definitely for the first couple of years, just focus on getting clients and getting money in the bank. And then the pitfalls that I often come across are getting distracted, not staying on track, not having goals. So I often see many business owners that fall into 4 categories. So you've got the guys that never set goals. So therefore wherever they land, it's by accident. So it can't be repeated. Then you've got the guys that set goals but don't actually put a set of actions together to achieve those goals. Then you've got the guys that set goals, achieve those goals, hit those targets, but then realize they were the wrong targets, i.e. they weren't profitable. This happens a lot with builders, by the way, where they come to me and they're saying that, George, things are going really well. We're attracting high-end clients, really juicy jobs where there's going to be big profits at the end of it. We get to the end of the job and we're wondering where the profit is. A lot of money coming in, a lot of money going out, not much staying. And then you've got the 4th type of business owner, which I believe everyone should be, which is setting the right goals, a clear path to get there, understanding that you're going to have to be flexible. It's not going to be a nice, straight, smooth line, but knowing, where you want to go, why you want to get there. So not having a clear plan, getting distracted, and then focusing on the wrong things. Having something that isn't sustainable. You mentioned that earlier on. sustainability doesn't have to be this big corporate type word. It's just as simple as creating a situation where you understand where you want to take your business and why. So you've got a big enough reason. So as I mentioned earlier, for me, you know, as much as I like hitting targets for my own business, and I do quite a lot of public speaking and all these other things that I love doing, I don't deviate from the core fact, the core purpose, which is as much as I'm enjoying your company and doing things like this, for me, there could be 1,000 people that come across this and think I'm an idiot. Nothing I said was valuable, but there's one person that's watching this right now that desperately needed to hear what I had to say. That's going to trigger something that makes them feel a little bit better today. Make that phone call that they've been delaying for the last couple of weeks because they felt uncomfortable. Have that conversation. Go to that networking meeting, albeit on Zoom. Do something that's going to move them closer towards where they want to be. So having something that's driving you, whether it's your children, your family, the lifestyle you want, helping your parents who are not well, or taking them on that dream holiday they've always wanted to go on, whatever it might be, just something that drives you towards it. So, you know, having something that you're working towards. Other pitfalls are not having a clear system of processes to follow. So understanding that none of us are ever going to have a life or a business that has no problems. There's always going to be something that we're working towards to improve or solve or whatever. So understanding that logically, if you were to, one of the exercises I take my clients through is we sit down and we make a list of all the possible things that could go wrong in the business, i.e., you break your leg playing football with your mates on a Tuesday night, and you're the main person, and you don't have key man insurance or anything else like that to cover you. What do you do now? You are the business. Or you land the biggest job you ever had before, you know, you're really excited about it, you don't get paid, the customer goes into liquidation if it's a commercial job. Or somebody makes a complaint against you at your trade body. You know, you just make a list of all the things that could possibly go wrong. And then the next part of the exercise is we then start listing your next action if, God forbid, something like that was to happen. What that does is it takes you to a place hypothetically in the future that says, if this happens, although it's not a great situation, far from it, I actually know what my next move is.
Yeah.
Because many business owners, not all obviously, but many business owners over the years are unfortunately only one bad decision away from going bust and losing it all. So therefore, if you can hypothetically take your mind's eye to a place where if this bad thing happens in business, obviously it's not good, but at least I know what my next move is. Therefore, I'm not going to get stressed. I'm not going to panic and be overwhelmed. And therefore, I'm more likely to make a bad decision. And I may only be one or two bad decisions away from really, you know, destroying my business or my reputation or whatever it might be. So those are some of the pitfalls. I would urge people to find someone that they can work with in some sort of capacity as either a coach or a consultant, or join a mastermind group or something. Not just for the content and the system and the structure, but also for the accountability in the community. Because it's quite lonely being a business owner.
Yeah. So you mentioned, as you said, you don't need a business card, you don't need a website. What about things like, is it a good idea to have an accountant? Are there specific types of software that are really useful? Those sort of back end things. What about those?
Yeah. So actually, there's a nice segue from the previous question about pitfalls and then accountants and software. Another pitfall is not knowing your numbers.
Well, yeah, that's your client number 3, isn't it? The one that's the money coming in and then going out again.
Yeah, and that's where accountants come in as well. So I'm not saying that you need to be, you know, incredibly, like, you know, you personally have to be proficient at all of these different things, but you have to absolutely know your numbers. And what I mean by knowing your numbers is twofold. So you need to know your numbers from a profit margins point of view, so you know what's profitable and what's not, but then also running the actual business itself in terms of, operating costs. So to answer your question about accountants and software, so if you know your numbers, you're in a position where you're in control of your business. because at the end of the day, numbers don't lie. Everything else is a lot of moving parts and variables, but the numbers are the factual part of the business. We actually have a pack that we set our trades clients up with, which is a series of spreadsheets which are nice and simple, easy to use. There's a video tutorial, the formula's already in there. You literally insert 1 or 2 numbers at the beginning and it spits out the entire process and see what's going on. In terms of do you need an accountant? You don't necessarily need an accountant for the first year and a half of your business. The reason I say that is because accountants work a year up to a year and 9 months behind where you've been trading from. If you're filing accounts as a limited company, similar to a sole tradership. But what I would say to anyone who is in a position where they're looking to start their trades business is definitely go and see 2 or 3 accountants to A, gather some information, B, have your questions answered, and C, get a feel for the kind of accountant that you feel is going to support you given the kind of character that you are and they are. And then in terms of software, some of my favorites, which are really easy to use, and some of these are literally like 10, 15, 20 pounds a month in terms of investment. And they help you with quotations and invoices and bookkeeping to a certain level and reconciling your account. And so you can see where your business is at cash flow wise at any given point anywhere in the world, because it's all remote on the cloud. Xero is a good one. Works very well. Accountants love that. Then you've got QuickBooks and Cash Flow and a few others as well. But ultimately, interestingly, accountants have their preference. So typically accountants will say, use Xero. They won't, they'll say, I don't use Sage or QuickBooks or Cash Flow. And then you'll get someone else that says, no, QuickBooks, because that's just how the accountancy, runs their systems in their office. So yeah, I would say you don't necessarily need an accountant, but I would go and see one. Accountants won't charge you for an initial meeting to go and see them, because they're thinking that if they do a good enough job and add enough value, then you'll come back to them and instruct them to be your accountant.
Yeah, and I'm guessing finding an accountant that understands the industry is a good thing.
Yeah. So I often get asked maybe 20, 30, sometimes up to 50 times a year to recommend an accountant. So I've got a few accountants that I recommend that I work closely with that specialize in different areas. Some specialize in trades, some specialize in other areas, some specialize in size of companies, some specialize in geographic location in terms of where businesses are based. So it's about finding who's right for you.
Yeah. Well, there's been lots of really helpful things to think about there. And we touched on sustainability, but just to sort of wrap it up, perhaps we can just go back to that, because I think one of the things which is a challenge in any business, not just construction, is you get a big project and you are working flat out on it, which means that you don't have the time to get out there and market yourself, which means when the project finishes, you're picking up from zero again. So for me, sustainability, part of that is having a never-ending flow of inquiries, like the guy that you mentioned that is booked up for 6 to 9 months. So any tips on that, on creating a sustainable factory, really?
Yeah, absolutely. So something that I really, if you're going to take anything away, hopefully you've taken a few things, but if you're watching this, and if you're going to take something away from this, then this will be it. You will always, or should always be building your pipeline. What I mean by that is having people, prospects, potential customers that are constantly coming into your pipeline. So we set our clients up with either various different types of software, or if they're fairly early on in their journey and they aren't that tech savvy, with a nice simple spreadsheet where they can track inquiries that come in, dates, contact details, inquiries made in terms of what the problem was, and they can track all of those with a traffic light system in terms of where they are. So red is like they've just come in, amber is they're getting warm, they're moving through the pipeline, and green is they're a hot qualified lead, or they're actually have become customers. But you're always building up your pipeline. So we also set our clients up with what we call the grid, which is a nice simple grid system of posting on social media, subject to where your ideal customers are and where their attention is. So we break that down to what to post on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and we break it down into the 5 E's. So you want to be posting things that resonate with your target market, and it's a nice system that once we populate the grid, it's effectively a situation where we've got anywhere from 6 to 9, 12 months even worth of content that can be easily done 1 hour or 2 hours over a weekend, that then schedules it for the rest of the week, and in some cases the month. And we cover things like education, so you're giving some free advice and tips to your target market, evidence of your work, so that's effectively testimonials and reviews to give people that feeling of trust, peace of mind, credibility, examples of your work, so before and after pictures, which is great for trades. If you are posting online in terms of before and after pictures, though, specifically for trades, especially on Instagram and Facebook, but Instagram in particular, if you're posting before and after pictures, make sure you post the after picture first and the picture second, because if people are scrolling through Instagram, the first image they're going to see is the first one that you post. So if that's the before picture and it's not that great, it's not going to grab their attention as much as the after picture, which is going to look a lot better. And then explaining how you work and your processes and what makes you different from the other electrician, tiler, roofer, plumber. And then also showing some emotion. I don't mean crying on a video, but what I mean is just showing the highs and lows, the person behind the business or the people behind the business, because people want to get a feel for who's running the business, who's going to be in their home, start to understand personality types, and then, you know, sharing a little bit of a bio on your content. So we show people a nice way that's easy to manage from a social media point of view, because again, coming back to the point where you asked me, you know, what my website is, and for you guys that didn't hear the answer, because before we went live, I don't have a website. I haven't had a website for 6 years, and I did it on purpose because somebody told me I'll never be able to build a consultancy business without a website. And you know, for the last 3.5 years, I've had a waiting list of clients wanting to work with me. I get invited to speak. You know, I've met amazing people like Paula to come and do things like this, all without a website. So don't be fooled that, you know, you need a website. So what I would say is have a clear system that's manageable from a social media point of view. We show our clients how to do that for social media, how to generate referrals. We also show our clients in the trades that when they're in in customers' properties, at the very minimum, every job that you walk into, you should be aiming to do such a great job, create such a great customer experience that it leads to your customer giving you a review, or even better, a testimonial, video testimonial. And those reviews that you can guide your customers to Check a Trade or Trustpilot or Facebook reviews or Google My Business reviews. You can then take a screenshot and then use that as a social media post as well. But then every time you get an inquiry, you can send a link to those reviews and testimonials to your customer to start building that credibility and trust feel before you even arrive to do a quotation.
That's a great idea. Yeah.
I also show my clients how to generate what we call the 3 R's in generating more business when you've got a customer, and that's how to generate repeat business from the same customer, as in you do such a great job, you add so much value that they want to call you back in to do more work, how to get referrals from your existing customers, and then how to get reviews and testimonials. So all it would really take is for you to get one customer, follow the system that we train our trades clients with, which will then lead to 3 new clients or 3 more pieces of business, and then those 3 will then multiply to another 3, and before you know it, that's how you build exponentially, and then start to build a customer base that trust you. You know, they won't go to another electrician and get a quote. You're their person.
Yeah, and that goes for any business, doesn't it? You know, it at the beginning you're maybe talking to individuals and doing work with them, and then there reaches a point where it just snowballs because you've built up that goodwill and people trust you.
Yeah, but you know, the important thing is just focus on always building that pipeline. One of the reasons why, let's be honest, and if you're watching this and you're about to start your business, or you've just started, or you know, and then remember this when you're a few months in, it hurts when you you know, you really feel like you're going to get that customer, and for whatever reason they choose to go elsewhere, or you get a customer and then something doesn't go to plan, out of your control, and you lose a customer, or you don't get paid by a customer. All of these things are actually rites of passage in business, so you have to go through them, and embrace that. But they hurt, and one of the reasons they hurt so much, especially when you're in a situation where you either lose a client or you didn't get that customer that you thought you were going to get, one of the reasons it hurts so much is because you don't have a big enough pipeline of interested, genuine inquiries where you feel like you're out in the desert and, you know, the work's dried up, the cash flow's dried up. Whereas if you're constantly building your pipeline, as much as it will sting that you didn't convert that customer or you lost a customer or whatever, you've always got more people that you can just pick up the phone and call and move along the buying cycle, move along that pipeline to actually get them in the door for a quotation, to book them in, to go out and do the job. So if you're always building your pipeline, it gives you that nice confidence to go out into the marketplace and know that you've actually got people that are consistently making inquiries to work with you.
Yeah. And yeah, as you say, cash flow is incredibly important, but also that pipeline is just as important, isn't it? The money and the people.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
Thank you.
just constantly be building the pipeline. And interestingly, I have this so much where, and it happens a lot with trades guys, where they say, "Oh, I'm so busy, I can't cope. You know, I'm going to stop my marketing." That's the worst thing that you can do, because at some point, the work that you're on is going to come to an end, and then you don't want to have a few days, a week, or 2 weeks where you now have to then regenerate more inquiries, go through that process, get them booked in. You want a way to build a sustainable business on every level is to have continuity of one job ends, the next one starts, and on it goes. It takes structure, it takes planning, it takes being around the right people that can offer you a system that works for a sustainable business, being around people that are going to, like I said, you know, being around a community or a mastermind, or working with a coach or consultant or someone that can almost like roll out the carpet, the red carpet, to show you, right, this is the path to follow. You know, here's a system that works. You don't have to invent the wheel, just put your spin on it. But in order to have a sustainable business, you need to keep doing these things in the background, and they can be easily done by using processes that are easy to manage for 1 or 2 hours a week, or in time when you bring someone on board to do some administrative paperwork, they can then do it for you. You know, so then slowly you get rid of the things that you don't need to be doing, and you can focus on the bigger, more important, more income generating tasks. And just the final thing on building a sustainable business is, if you focus on cash flow, like I've mentioned a few times, but if you focus on income generating activities every single day, and that could be going out and doing quotations, having conversations with people that are genuinely interested in your services, booking sales calls, making follow-up calls, chasing outstanding invoices if that's applicable, getting jobs booked in. These are income generating activities. If you're doing at least 3 income generating activities or actions every single day, it's very difficult for you not to be successful financially.
Okay, those are great words of wisdom there. And I just wanted to add before we wrap up that, you know, you mentioned about the social media and being able to hand it off to somebody. You know, if you have teenagers or, you know, teenage nieces or nephews and everything, they're perfect to do that for you. I know that I've done that myself. Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for your time today. All the details of how to contact George will be below. But brilliant. Thank you so much. That has been really interesting and really useful.
I really appreciate it. It's been great to meet you. Thank you so much for the opportunity. If there's anything I can do for you or for your community, if anyone's got any questions, you know, we offer free consultation calls, then feel free to reach out. If you want to go over anything that you might have missed or need more explanation on, you know, feel free.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Opportunity. Appreciate it.